All right, let's dive into a really powerful metaphor for what it means to live a meaningful life. It all comes from this story about three thinkers who get together for a retreat at a quiet lake. And the story really kicks off with a central question, one that's for all of us, really. Is your life a flowing river, moving with intention, or is it more like a stagnant pool, just kind of collecting whatever happens to fall into it? So, to explore this, we meet three characters, and each one represents a different piece of the puzzle. First up, you've got the uncle. He's 72, a retired teacher, and he's really the conscience of the story. You know, his wisdom isn't just from living a long time, it's because he's actually filtered his experiences to find what truly matters. Then there's his nephew. He's 32, an entrepreneur, and he's basically the pulse of our modern world. He's always searching, always moving, looking for speed, for understanding, and of course, for meaning in this crazy fast age we live in. And rounding out our trio is Roger. He's a thinker who specializes in digital ethics, and his whole thing is bridging that gap between our online lives and our real, tangible world. He's the one who brings that practical, ethical lens to the whole conversation. So these three get together for this retreat. And on the third day, the nephew is just looking out at these streams that are feeding into the lake. And that's when it hits him. This one observation sparks the big idea, the central metaphor for their whole chat. And the uncle just nails it with this simple but really profound thought. He says, the lake, that's like our inner potential, our depth. But the river, that's what happens when we let that depth flow out and actually enter our lives. It's potential in action. Hearing this, the nephew has this moment of realization. He says he feels like a leaf that's just caught on a stone in the water. You know, he's not sinking, but he's not really flowing either. And wow, what a powerful image for that feeling of being stuck. I think we can all relate to that, right? And that brings us to the core distinction here. Think about it. A pool is totally passive. It just collects whatever lands in it, and eventually it gets stagnant, directionless. But a conscious river, that's different. It knows where it's going. It's active. It has a direction, a purpose. So that leads us to the next big piece of the puzzle. Flowing with intention. Because look, it's one thing to just be moving, but what is it that turns simple motion into a conscious, meaningful flow? And Roger, our ethics guy, he asks the perfect question. This is what takes it from just a cool metaphor to a real practical way of living. He asks, where does the conscious part actually begin? The uncle's answer here is just brilliant. He breaks it down into three simple steps. First, it starts with awareness. Just noticing what's going on inside you and around you. Then comes meaning. You start to attach some significance, some value to what you're noticing. And all that leads to step 3, deliberate choice, actually acting based on that meaning and awareness. And this is the absolute heart of the whole idea. A river flows because of an external force, right? Gravity pulls the water downhill. But a human being, a conscious river, we flow by intention. It's that internal force, our own choices, that gives our life its direction. So, to make sure this isn't just talk, our three thinkers decide to put this philosophy into practice. They decide to, as they put it, pour water into the future by going to talk with the kids in the local village. And the nephew asks them this huge, fundamental question about the direction of their own little rivers. He keeps it super simple. What does it mean to be good? The answers they get from these kids are just so pure and so profound. The very first answer? Not hurting anyone. I mean, that's the foundation of all ethics, right there, said so simply. And then, another kid takes it to the next level. They add just one word, helping. And right there you see the shift, from the passive idea of doing no harm to the active principle of doing good, of kindness. The uncle then chimes in with this beautiful piece of wisdom on how to guide others. He says, you never ever say to a child, you are bad. Instead, you say, what you did was not good. It's such a simple shift in language, but it completely changes everything. It separates the action from the person's inherent worth, reminding us that everyone is always worthy of love. So the big question is, how do we actually do this in our own lives? Well, the story gives us a really practical tool for that, something called a river journal. It's designed to help you chart the course of your own conscious river. The first daily question is so powerful. It asks you to reflect not on what you got done, but on your impact on others. Whom did I make happy today? The second question looks at the other side of the coin, which is just as important, restraint. Whom did I avoid hurting? This isn't about being passive. It's about the conscious, deliberate choice not to cause harm. And this final question kind of ties it all together. It's a bit poetic, but it asks you to think about the values you actually lived out during your day. To which goodness did I become water? In other words, what positive force in the world did you become a part of today? Let's end on this really powerful reminder from Roger. First real life, then the screen. It's a perfect call to action, basically begging us to apply these ideas in the real world, to actually be a conscious river, not just think about it. So the question to leave you with is this: which goodness will you become water for?